She was only 17 the night she was summoned. The silk curtains of the harem billowed like ghosts as whispers followed her down the marble hall. She wasn't supposed to be chosen. She wasn't ready. And as the eunuchs opened the doors to the Sultan's chamber, she knew something in her life had just broken in half quietly. Irrevocably. The air inside was stifling. Incense curled in the corners of the ceiling like it was trying to escape. The Sultan never looked at her directly. Not at first. He just sat in silence on the divan, his face half lit by an oil lamp, the other half swallowed by shadow. Her bare feet barely made a sound on the mosaic tiles, but her heartbeat pounded so loudly, it seemed to shake the stained glass windows. Every girl in the harem knew the unspoken rules. But Ayla wasn't like the others. She hadn't spent years learning the art of seduction. She hadn't wanted this life. She'd been a merchant's daughter, taken during a debt settlement, bartered like fruit in a souk. And now, she stood before the most powerful man in the empire, trembling, beautifully afraid. The eunuchs shut the doors behind her. The lock clicked like the final line in a contract. It was just the two of them now. The Sultan finally looked up. "You're trembling," he said, not unkindly. "You've never been called before." "No," Ayla replied, her voice barely a thread. He didn't smile. "Then we begin with silence." She nodded, even though she didn't know what he meant. But that was one of the first rules. Don't ask questions. The harem had rules for everything: how to bathe, how to breathe, how to walk. But in the Sultan's chamber, the rules twisted into something deeper, older, darker. This wasn't just a ritual of pleasure. It was a test of obedience, of memory, of sacrifice. No eye contact unless permitted. No speaking unless asked. And, above all, no crying. Crying was considered manipulation, a weakness, a punishable offense. He poured her a cup of sherbet, himself a rare gestrand, handed it to her without a word. She accepted it with both hands, lowered her eyes, and drank. Beneath the sweetness of the drink, she tasted something bitter. "You were not trained," he said. She looked up, unsure whether to answer. "I prefer that," he added. "Trained girls forget who they are." Ayla didn't speak. Her mother had once told her that silence was the last weapon of the powerless, but here, even silence felt dangerous. The Sultan stood and approached her. He didn't touch her. Instead, he circled her like a hawk might study a trembling bird. "You know, my mother was never summoned," he said quietly. "She spent her life in that gilded cage, waiting, dying in velvet." Ayla swallowed hard. He stopped in front of her. "Tell me something, anything, before I forget your voice." She hesitated. "Then, my father died for a shipment of salt that caught him off guard." "Salt," he repeated, with something like curiosity. He lied about its weight. "The governor had him whipped until his spine broke." The Sultan blinked. "Slowly, and yet you still smell like jasmine and hope." Her lip trembled, but she didn't cry. He dismissed her after an hour. No touching, no tests, no questions, just a single hour in which she had been observed, like a coin held to the sun. And when the doors closed behind her, the other girls swarmed, hungry for details. But Ayla said nothing. Her silence unnerved them. 2 days later, she was summoned again. This time, the room was colder. The windows had been shuttered. He was already reclining, his face unreadable. He asked her to sing. "I don't sing," she whispered. "You do." Now, she sang off-key, softly. A lullaby she remembered from childhood. He closed his eyes, perhaps listening, perhaps not. "You lied," he said. When she finished, Ayla flinched. "About what?" "You said your father died for salt." "He did. But, you left something out." Ayla's throat tightened. He was caught with forged ledgers. He used the salt as cover. The Sultan gave a cold smile. "So you know how men lie?" She nodded. "Good," he said. "Then you'll recognize it when I do." Every visit after that became stranger, more surreal. Sometimes he asked her to sit and read poetry. Sometimes he made her eat grapes while kneeling on pillows. Once, he made her walk in circles for an hour without stopping. She never understood what he wanted, but she obeyed. Not out of fear, out of something worse, curiosity, and with each passing night, the other concubines grew colder toward her. Jealousy rippled like poison in the baths. One girl sliced open Ayla's silk slippers, another slipped glass into her bedding, but Ayla never retaliated. She had learned that silence was protection. To Dot, then came the night he gave her a gift, wrapped in velvet, a pearl comb, glistening like a sliver of moonlight. "No one else has touched this," he said. "Not even the eunuchs, it's yours. Use it only in my presence." She bowed her head and accepted it. But inside, something shifted. She had seen what gifts meant. A pearl comb wasn't just a token, it was a brand. A warning to the others. That night, she wasn't dismissed. Not after an hour, not even after 3. He asked her questions, strange, dreamlike things. "What do you fear most? Being forgotten? What do you think I fear?" She hesitated. Being remembered wrongly. The look in his eyes, something between sorrow and relief, told her she was right. She fell asleep on a velvet couch while he played a reed flute. When she woke, it was still night, but he was gone. In his place was a note. "There are rules. Even I must follow. Break nothing. Trust nothing. Tonight, you'll see why." It wasn't a threat. It was a prophecy, because at midnight, the guards came, but they weren't there for her. They stormed the harem like wolves, screaming, dragging girls by their hair. Eunuchs thrown aside, Ayla watched, frozen, as one of the senior concubines was stripped and accused of treason. Whispers of letters, lovers, a dagger found in her sash, .yl, a clutched the pearl comb in her hand like a talisman.